All right, folks, let's get this started. Matt Damon's here, ready to face you all. Who's got the first shot? Matt forced a smile, his hands gripping the armrests, already damp with sweat. This wasn't going to be a friendly Q&A. Something big was brewing. You'll want to stick around for this. The host pointed to a lanky guy in a faded Red Sox cap, slouched in the front row. You in the gray shirt, let's hear it. The guy stood, his Boston accent thick and biting. Matt, ever wonder if you'd be anything without Ben Affleck dragging you to the top? No Oscar, just another kid from Southie? The crowd snickered, a low rumble of agreement. Matt's jaw tightened, but he leaned forward, keeping it light. Ben's my guy, but I pulled my weight. We wrote Good Will Hunting together, you know? The host didn't give him a break, spinning toward a young woman with sharp eyes and a buzz cut. You, in the leather jacket, go. She stood, crossing her arms. Sure, but you leaned hard on Ben's name for that script. Would you be here without him? The question cut deeper than Matt expected, and his smile faltered. I wrote my part, he wrote his. It was a team effort, he said, but his voice had an edge, and the crowd caught it, their murmurs growing. The host grinned, loving the tension, and pointed again. Guy in the back, blue hoodie, hit him. The first guy wasn't done, though, shouting, So you're saying you'd be just as big without Affleck? Really? Matt's laugh was tight, almost a scoff. I've done all right, he said, but it sounded weak, and he knew it. The room was alive now, feeding off his discomfort. The host pivoted, his eyes scanning the crowd like a predator. All right, let's switch it up. You, in the Union jacket, what have you got? A grizzled man in his 40s stood, his voice low but firm. Matt, you ever feel dirty doing those gambling ads? Old folks are blowing their pensions on those apps you're pushing. The crowd went quiet, the weight of the question settling in. Matt's face hardened, his tone sharper than before. I'm not making anyone bet their money. If they can't stop themselves, that's their problem. The words came out too fast, too harsh, and a ripple of disapproval ran through the audience. The man didn't flinch. So it's their fault for trusting you? Your face is on those ads, Matt. People see you and think it's safe. The host jumped in, pointing to an older woman in a cardigan. Lady in the front, go for it. She stood, her voice calm but cutting. You're a role model, like it or not. That's responsibility. You don't get to shrug it off. Matt's neck flushed, and he leaned back, forcing a half smile. Look, I stopped doing those ads. I was younger, made mistakes. I get it. The crowd wasn't buying it, their murmurs turning to low boos. The host's grin widened, and he pointed again. You, in the plaid shirt, let's keep it rolling. The next question came like a blade. The host singled out a man in his 50s, his face weathered, his stare unyielding. Man in the plaid, what's on your mind? The guy stood, his voice rough as gravel. Matt, you were loud about the Me Too, but you kept working with people who got called out. What's that about? You got principles, or is it all for show? The studio fell silent, the air heavy. Matt's smile was gone, his hands clasped tight in his lap. I've always supported women, he said, his voice measured but thin. This industry's messy, and I've tried to do what's right. The answer felt flimsy, and the crowd sensed it, their eyes boring into him. The host tilted his head, feigning curiosity, and pointed to another hand before Matt could recover. But the man in plaid wasn't done, his voice cutting through again. The lights seemed hotter now, Matt's shirt sticking to his back, his eyes flicking toward the exit for just a moment. Something bigger was coming, something that would crack the facade wide open. Stay with this. It's about to get real. You're not done, plaid shirt, are you? Hit him again. The man, 50-ish with a weathered face and eyes like steel, stood slowly, his voice steady but laced with accusation. Matt, I know you kept quiet when your buddy was acting shady with women on set. Don't play shocked. You were there. You saw it. Why didn't you say anything? Scared of losing a role, or was it just easier to stay silent? The crowd sucked in a collective breath, the silence so heavy it felt like the room itself was holding its breath. Matt's face froze, a bead of sweat tracing down his temple, his cool guy facade cracking. He opened his mouth, but no words came at first. The host raised an eyebrow, milking the moment. "Well, Matt, plaid shirt's waiting." Matt's voice came out low, almost a mumble. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've always stood up for what's right." But the words sounded hollow, and the crowd stirred, sensing blood. The man in plaid shook his head. "Don't dodge it, Matt. You were in that trailer, you saw what went down, and you said nothing. Because the movie had to come out, right? Contract, awards, all that. So, don't stand here preaching about supporting women when you picked your career over them." Matt's hands clenched, his knuckles white, and he leaned forward, voice tighter now. "That's not how it went. You're making assumptions." But his eyes darted away, and the crowd wasn't buying it. The host, sensing the heat, pointed to a woman in a red scarf. "Red scarf, you're up." The woman, maybe in her 30s, stood with a quiet intensity, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Matt, you talk about being a good guy, but you've never owned up to the times you looked the other way. People trusted you to speak up, and you didn't. Why should we believe you now?" Matt's jaw worked, his face flushed, and he tried to pivot. "I've done a lot for causes I care about. I'm not perfect, but I've tried to make a difference." The crowd groaned, a few shouts of "cop out" rising from the back. The host didn't let up, pointing to a younger guy in a black hoodie. "Black hoodie, go for it." The guy stood, his voice sharp. "You say you're for women, but you worked with guys who got called out and now you're dodging. Were you protecting your friends or your paycheck?" The question landed like a punch, and Matt's composure slipped further. "It's not black and white," he snapped, his voice rising. "You don't know what it's like in this industry, making choices when everyone's watching." The crowd erupted in boos, and the host raised his hands, playing to the chaos. "Oh, it's getting spicy now. Who else?" "You in the green sweater, let's hear it." A middle-aged woman stood, her voice calm but firm. "Matt, I admired you, but hearing you dodge these questions makes me wonder if you're just another actor playing a part. When did you last take a real stand?" Matt's eyes flickered with something, anger, maybe shame, and he leaned back, rubbing his hands together. "I've taken stands," he said, quieter now. "I don't advertise every choice I make." But the room wasn't having it, the murmurs turning to open jeers. The host, loving every second, pointed to a man in a denim jacket. "Denim jacket, what's your angle?" The man stood, his voice low but deliberate. "Matt, you're quick to say you've changed, but you never apologized for those gambling ads. My dad lost half his savings to one of those apps you pitched. You think I was young? Cuts it?" Matt's face softened for a moment, a flicker of guilt crossing his features. "I'm sorry about your dad," he said, and it sounded genuine, but then he added, "I didn't make him place those bets." The crowd hissed, and the man in denim shook his head. "You don't get it, do you? Your face sold the lie." The host jumped in, pointing to a woman in glasses. "Glasses, let's keep it rolling." She stood, her voice trembling with anger. "You act like you're above it all, Matt, but you're not. You profited off people's trust, and now you're sitting here acting like it's no big deal." Matt's hands were shaking now, just slightly, and he tried to steer back. "I've stopped those ads. I've learned. I'm trying to do better." But the crowd was relentless, their voices overlapping, a chorus of accusations. The host grinned wider, pointing to another. "You in the striped shirt, go." A young man stood, his tone biting. "You keep saying you've learned, but you're still dodging the number Me Too stuff. Were you silent because you didn't care, or because you were scared of losing your spot at the top?" Matt's eyes flashed, and he snapped, "I wasn't silent. I've supported women my whole career." But the lie in his voice was palpable, and the crowd roared, their frustration boiling over. The tension was unbearable now, the room a pressure cooker. Matt pointed to another hand, desperate to shift the focus, but the host cut him off, pointing back to the man in plaid. "Plaid shirt, you've got more, don't you?" The man stood again, his voice colder now. "You're not answering, Matt. You saw what happened in that trailer and you walked away. You're not an ally, you're a bystander. Own it." Matt's face was a mask of strain, his voice barely controlled. I didn't see anything like that. You're twisting things. But his words were drowned out by the crowd's shouts, a mix of liar and just admit it. The host, sensing the peak, leaned in. Matt, they're not letting you off. What's the truth here? Matt stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. That's enough, he said, his voice shaking with anger or fear or both. I'm done. The crowd erupted, boos and jeers filling the room as he stormed off the stage, brushing past the host, who called after him, Matt, come on, you can't run from this. Outside, journalists swarmed, cameras flashing, but Matt shoved through them, his face a storm of emotions, disappearing into the night. The studio buzzed with outrage, the crowd unsatisfied, the host milking the drama for every last drop. Something had broken open, and it wasn't over yet. Trust me, this story's got more to give. The fallout from Matt Damon's exit from Against 50 Haters was immediate. The internet ablaze with clips of his tense deflections and that final, chair-scraping walkout. Social media churned with hashtags, Shock's Matt dodges, Shocker haters win, while tabloids spun headlines about his meltdown. The studio lights had long faded, but the weight of that night clung to Matt as he sat alone in his hotel room, the city's hum a faint pulse beyond the window. He scrolled through the posts, each one a jab, each comment a twist of the knife. The host's voice still echoed in his head, goading the crowd, pointing to the man in the plaid shirt who'd called him a bystander. Matt's phone buzzed with messages from his team, PR people urging damage control, friends checking in, but he ignored them all. His fingers hovered over the Instagram app, a half-formed idea taking shape. He wasn't sure if it was defiance or desperation, but he needed to say something, anything, to take back the narrative. The show had been a trap, he told himself, a setup to make him look small, but he wasn't going down like that. This story's not over yet. Stick with it. It's worth the ride. The next morning, Matt posted a video to Instagram, his face lit by the soft glow of his hotel room lamp. No makeup, no script, just him in a plain t-shirt, looking straight into the camera. Last night was rough, he started, his voice steady but raw. I walked into Against 50 Haters thinking I could handle it, maybe even laugh it off. I was wrong. Those questions, they hit hard, and I didn't answer them well. Let's clear some things up. He leaned closer, his eyes tired but direct. The gambling ads? I stopped them years ago because I saw the harm. I should have apologized sooner, and I'm sorry to anyone who got hurt, like the man who mentioned his dad. That's on me. The crowd's boos replayed in his mind, but he pressed on. The number Me Too stuff. I've supported women, but yeah, I've worked with people who were accused. I didn't always know what to do, and maybe I didn't do enough. But I wasn't in any trailer watching someone cross a line. That's not who I am. He paused, rubbing his jaw. I'm not perfect. I've made choices I regret, but I'm not hiding from them. Last night, I let the heat get to me, and I walked out. That was weak, but I'm here now, and I'm owning it. He ended with a nod, the video cutting to black. Within hours, it had millions of views, the comments a war zone of praise and skepticism. Some called it brave, others a PR stunt. But Matt didn't read them. He'd said his piece. The show's ratings skyrocketed, the host crowing about the explosive episode on every platform, clips replayed endlessly. Matt's reputation, though, hung in a strange limbo. Fans rallied, citing his charity work and roles that inspired them, while critics dug deeper, demanding specifics he hadn't given. The man in plaid's accusation lingered, unanswered in a way that satisfied everyone. Matt returned to his life, meetings, scripts, the grind. But the night in that studio had shifted something. He was quieter now, more guarded, the easy charm a little harder to muster. The questions hadn't just been about ads or alliances. They'd forced him to look at the man he'd become, the compromises he'd made to stay on top. As weeks passed, he started turning down projects tied to questionable figures. Not loudly, not for show, but because the weight of silence felt heavier now. The world kept watching, waiting for his next move, but Matt wasn't sure what it would be. He'd faced the haters, faced himself, and walked away bruised but still standing. Whether that was enough, no one, not even he, could say.